What's up? What's up? What's up? We are Back Guard, the Victory Lap Guard, the Gavin and Zach Guard, the Back to Talking Smack Guard. How you guys doing? What's up, Gavin?
Doing pretty well. Welcome back to the Vanguard, everyone. Hope you guys were able to join us last night for what was a freaking awesome debate stream. We covered the Dr. Oz versus John Fetterman debate. Had a really good time hanging out with y'all. Got some new listeners as well from that. A lot of people tuning in. So what's up, everyone? Like I said, welcome back. We have a great show today. Very TYT-centric show today, breaking down a couple clips from the Young Turks. But I think it's going to be a fun time. Again, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button if you're just now dropping by. Really helps get some more eyes on the conversation, some more comrades in the chat. And shout out to you, Big Cat's Corner, for the $1.99. Really appreciate that. 3 days, 3 Vanguard streams. Keep it up, guys. Hell yeah. First super chat of the live stream. Really appreciate that, Big Cat's Corner.
Yeah, shout out to you, Big Cat. I think actually, if we count the Kyle interview, which we did on Monday, this is actually our 4th stream in 3 days. So yeah, cranking out that content just for you, Big Cat's Corner. Really appreciate you kicking off the live stream with a generous super chat. And shout out to also everybody that supports our show on Patreon. Big shout out to our patron community, those comrades, Vanguardians, Super Vanguardians, that really help keep this show afloat. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. And we like to use this content or the contributions you guys make on Patreon as a way of not just giving some stability to our life, but as a way of reinvesting in some more dynamic, less profitable content that we think you guys will want to see. So yeah, shout out to everybody that supports us, and the link is in the description.
Yeah, huge shout out to the patron community. And as Zach said, we are working on a couple documentary projects right now, like 2 or 3, honestly, that we're getting ready for you guys. So that's all made possible by the patrons, as well as this whole show. We wouldn't be able to do it without your guys' support. So we really, really appreciate it. And again, the link's going to be in the description, as always, if you're interested in supporting our show and joining our community on Patreon. The link's going to be found in the description. Even just a couple bucks a month goes a long, long way. So we really appreciate all the support, guys. But for those of you who aren't able to support us financially or don't want to, that's totally understandable as well. All we ask is that you hit that like button. Again, it's totally for free and a great way to support the show as well. And I got my freaking cat over here pawing at the microphone. So a little bit distracted, but yeah. Anyway, want to get into today's news, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we'll go ahead and kick off with some more TYT talking. And I guess we can start with the Anna Kasparian clip we were going to react to, Gavin. Obviously, yesterday, before we went live to break down the Oz and Fetterman, yesterday before we went to break down the Oz Fetterman debate, we reacted to the video clip of AOC on what's the name of that fucking show? Pod Save America, where they were talking about, which fries and like whether or not they were fry guys or burger guys or all that kind of shit. That led to some responses from the internet. Gavin had a hit tweet, and Anna Kasparian weighed in. So, I guess we can go ahead and hear from her, find out what exactly she thought of the criticism that AOC was taking by going on and palling around with some former Obama speechwriters, and instead of, basically always ignoring independent left media.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So as you guys might remember, AOC put out this tweet, or rather Pod Save America did. Our interview with AOC drops tomorrow. They did like an hour-long interview, and they were talking about In-N-Out towards the end. Obviously, that's not all what they talked about, but that's the clip that got posted. So that's the clip that a lot of people reacted to. And as I said on the show yesterday, I don't really have a problem with AOC going on Pod Save America. Like, obviously, if you're a politician, you're going to get invited onto all sorts of platforms. It's not really a big deal to me. The problem to me is that she's doing this instead of ever engaging with the online independent left media ecosystem that very much so helped her get elected in the first place. That's what I pointed out on Twitter. Like Zach said, a hit tweet, at least for an account of our size. Subscribe to us or follow us on Twitter, by the way, if you haven't already. Links in the description for that as well, if you want to see some more hit tweets. But yeah, so she got a lot of criticism for that, including from David Sirota, actually, who was Bernie Sanders' speechwriter. Kind of funny because the Pod Save America bros were Obama's speechwriter. David Sirota, and she's more than happy to talk to them. She's more than happy to talk to Obama's speechwriters, but she refuses to talk to David Sirota, who was Bernie Sanders' speechwriter. And of course, AOC was part of the Bernie campaign herself. She was a prominent surrogate for Bernie. She endorsed Bernie Sanders. She showed up at a lot of his rallies. So I think that definitely got under David Sirota's skin, and he pointed out I think it's really something that elected left leaders will eagerly be interviewed by corporate Democrat hosts who created the neoliberalism that destroyed the left, but rarely ever accept interview questions from actual left outlets that might ask real questions. So again, David Sirota, that's pretty strong words from David Sirota. And the other day on TYT, Anna Kasparian decided to talk a little bit about this. And it was an interesting segment. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, guys. You know, I'm not going to come out here and say that Anna Kasparian did a horrible job and that she 100% defended AOC in every way, because that's not what happened. And we'll show you guys she did offer a few pretty valid criticisms of AOC. But there's some stuff here that really frustrated me as well, and just some blatant contradictions from Anna Kasparian in the way she's talking about AOC and also people's criticisms of AOC. So I'm excited to break this down because, like I said, I found this to be mostly very frustrating. It's like Anna Kasparian is almost there, and she does make some good points in here, but she just doesn't quite like complete the thought, and it's quite frustrating. Like I said, filled with contradictions. The title is AOC talked about In and Out on Pod Save America, and the internet reacted with rage, which is a stupid headline because that's not why people reacted. It's not like people were, mad about the fact that she was talking about In and Out. Like, no one really cares about that. They were mad about the fact that she's hanging out with these losers instead of ever engaging with independent left media. So that's the problem. But with all that said, let's take a look here. Also, shout out to you, Prelude. Thanks so much for the $5. As a conservative who is in the UK, who is to the left of the Democrats in the US, I enjoy your show. Keep up the fight. I enjoy your true balanced takes. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Prelude. And that is pretty funny that, yeah, conservatives in the UK are oftentimes to the left of the mainstream Democrats in America. So that's a pretty funny observation, and really glad you're enjoying the show.
Yeah, I would love to know what you think of the new PM over there, or what you thought about the entire Liz Truss fucking scenario. There's been so many like great jokes over here in America. Like, they call me Liz Truss, how I give her a weak pound and then leave, and all that kind of like weird shit. Like, I've been enjoying all of that content. So yeah, shout out to you. I'm always impressed by people who have time to follow their own domestic politics, and then also international politics as well. So shout out to you, Prelude, and thanks for supporting the show. But yeah, let's go ahead and get in this and start reacting to some Anna Kasparian commentary.
While you're out here, will you be going to In and Out? And is there anything you can do at a federal level to take on the quality of the fries?
Thank you for saying this.
People need to talk about it.
Thank you for saying this, because every time I come out here, everyone's like, oh my God, In and Out, In and Out. And I'm like, my controversial non-political opinion is that it's overrated.
Yeah.
You just watched the absolute tail end of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's interview with Pod Save America. And that is the clip that the left has kind of been losing its mind about online. Now, if the entire interview was just nonsense talk about In and Out, I'd be pretty frustrated. I'd be pretty annoyed. You've got other things to talk about. The nation is grappling with so many issues. But I want to reiterate, after watching the entirety of her interview, that was literally the last part of the conversation. And I will note that she is correct about In and Out fries specifically. All right, now with that said, I wanted to provide one example of someone I like, someone who's a friend of the show, someone who agrees with us on many political issues, and that's David Sirota. He highlighted that clip, which was tweeted out by PodSave, and said, I think it's really something that elected left leaders will eagerly be invited by corporate Democrat hosts who created neoliberalism that destroyed the left, but rarely ever accept interview requests from actual left outlets that might ask real questions. Okay, so there's a lot there. While the hosts of PodSave are certainly those who promote and provide cover for the neoliberal policies that have definitely destroyed the Democratic Party and the country, I think it's unfair to say they created neoliberalism, but nonetheless, they certainly promote it and did so under the Obama administration, and it was a disaster. So that point is well taken, but let's not overstate their involvement. They didn't create neoliberalism; they're just adherents of neoliberalism, and obviously, I'm not.
Yeah, just to break in here. Okay, let's really get into the weeds then, Anna, right? Because what he's saying here is that they were the foot soldiers for a man named Barack Obama. And while Barack Obama might not historically have invented neoliberalism, I think it's fair to say, Gavin, that he reinvented neoliberalism. I think it's safe to say that he put a shiny new face on it. He was a handsome guy and a smooth talker, and he basically did the slick Willie maneuver that Bill Clinton did in the 90s, right? How do I put a new face on the old bag, right? Conservatism. So yeah, no, those guys are just responsible for selling everybody an empty bag of goods that you're supposed to be passionately opposed to politically. These are the guys that wrote speeches that tried to convince the American people that they couldn't have a public option even, and that we had to go with the Republican healthcare plan. These are the guys that helped write speeches to run cover for the fucking drone policies that were massively escalatory under the Obama administration, taking us to 6-7 wars simultaneously. After the 2 he inherited, which he escalated with the drone policy. Not only that, we didn't see a single fucking minimum wage increase under the 8 years of Barack Obama. Do I need to continue? We didn't address climate change. There was austerity. He bailed out all of the big business. Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second. In the fucking most devastating housing crash that we'd ever seen as a modern country, he was like, yeah, we're going to bail out the banks and leave every homeowner hung out to dry. And these guys are like, great, we're going to write speeches talking about accountability, but we're not talking about accountability for the banks. We're talking about accountability for fucking poor people who were exploited. Yeah, that is the definition of neoliberalism. And as his speechwriters, they definitely played a hand in reinventing it, because what is neoliberal policy? It's just the shit you sell people as a politician before you put it into the absolutely conservative, congressional machine.
So well said. And also, David Sirota, said that they have destroyed the left. Very true. Who called up all the candidates and got them to drop out of the race in the 2020 primary, clearing the way for Joe Biden? It was freaking Barack Obama. And guess who was doing propaganda for Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and the Democratic Party at large on their shitty program, Pod Save America? It was these dudes that AOC just chatted with instead of you, Anna, instead of coming on your show, one of the shows that helped get her elected in the first place. So I don't know why you're not as mad as David Sirota is. I'm as mad as David Sirota is. You should be even more mad. Again, given the fact that she's fucking completely ghosting you. I'm guarantee you that TYT has sent in many requests for interviews with AOC in the last couple of years, and they've been completely ghosted. Meanwhile, she's in LA, the same city as you, and instead she's hanging out with these fucking neoliberal cheerleaders, these fucking losers, these enemies of the people, frankly. So yeah, I don't understand why I don't understand why Anna Kasparian's not just as mad as David Sirota, and instead she's out here fucking tone policing him, saying, well, technically, they didn't invent neoliberalism, they just massively support and cheerlead for it. Okay, whatever. Thanks for the tone policing, Anna. Also, thank you, Dr. LYK. Really appreciate the super chat. Why is Anna rarely in the studio with Cenk? That's a good question. It's one of the things that kind of annoys me about TYT these days. Obviously not a very substantive criticism, but I used to enjoy the show more when they were always in studio and had the big desk with a panel. And now it seems like they're always like Skyping in from their, respective locations, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, it's just not the same vibe anymore.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and I just tried to look and double check just to give everybody an idea of how long it's been since TYT has even scored an interview with AOC where she's actually gone on TYT. I'm pretty sure Emma Vigeland was the last person that interviewed her for TYT, and like a fucking because the last time she was in studio, it says it's 4 years ago, and then I found another clip of Emma Vigeland sitting in like a weird ass room with AOC chatting with her, and that was back when Emma was still with TYT, hadn't moved over to the Majority Report yet. So yeah, they're obviously getting hung out to dry. And what does that say? If even AOC will not go on, because she hasn't been on Breaking Points, we'd have reacted to the whole goddamn thing on our show. She was never on Rising. We would have reacted to the whole goddamn thing on our show. So that's for sure never happened. TYT, another big pillar of left in not even independent media, right? They've taken a bunch of outsider cash. But still like quasi-independent media. She won't even fuck with that because they might ask her a serious question. She's seen Cenk tweet shit, even though he doesn't mean it. Like, oh, I'm done with the squad. They're not doing anything. Like, no, he's got he's burned his bridge with even that much fucking criticism. Whilst Rishi is better option than Liz Truss, most conservatives I know will be voting Labor next general election. who seem more competent. Well, that's based to hear from across the pond. I don't know much about the Labor Party's inner workings. Obviously, I followed the Corbyn shit a lot back when that was going down. But that's really good to hear, and I'll have to do my homework on that just for you, Prelude. That's encouraging to hear that the tides are turning over there in the UK, and that people are interested in voting Labour, even if they typically lean conservative. Because you're right, the Conservatives, the Tories, have destroyed the fucking economy over there, from what I understand. And obviously, you would know better than us.
Yeah, that's super interesting that the Conservatives, there must have been the Tories must be really fumbling the bag if the Conservatives are going to vote for Labor in the next general election. Either way, thank you for your insight, Prelude, and really appreciate the super chat. But yeah, let's keep watching some more of this breakdown from Anna Kasparian.
Not for that. But the other thing that David Sirota mentions is that AOC, agrees to go on this Pod Save America show, but, hasn't really been doing a lot of left-wing media. She has done some left-wing media in the past, but just from personal experience, yeah, she could be doing more. I'm not gonna disagree with that. She kind of has gone in a completely different direction in terms of her media appearances. She's probably a little uncomfortable because it's difficult to decipher in this independent media space who the good faith actors are and who the lunatics are, so I don't know.
So basically her defense of AOC is, we both hate Jimmy Dore, so therefore she has an excuse to never engage with any independent left media, including TYT, my own show. Why are you out here defending this person? You just admitted that, oh yeah, she could do better. She could go on more independent shows like TYT, which by the way isn't actually independent, but still, that aside, instead of raking her over the coals for that, or at least pointing out her hypocrisy, you don't have to be mean about it, but you could just put out a statement or come after her, criticize her like David Sirota did. But instead it's like, oh, I have to sit here and fucking defend her because Jimmy Dore, and I don't like Jimmy Dore, and neither does AOC. Therefore, she has an excuse to never engage with any independent left shows ever. Such a weak defense. I just don't get why Anna's even defending her in the first place. Why not do a segment criticizing AOC? It sounds like you have some valid criticisms of AOC. It sounds like you mostly agree with David Sirota. So why are you doing this segment defending her?
Because she's like, maybe if I do the segment defending her, then she'll pay attention to me and she'll know that I'm one of the real ones out here, one of the trustworthy news sources or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm literally scouring the internet right now trying to find examples of when AOC has engaged in independent media. They don't exist at all. I mean, the last one, technically, I think the last technical independent media interview that she gave was when she was fucking around playing Among Us with Hasanabi on Twitch. Because, I mean, that dude is, technically an interviewer, I guess. But it has to be that low stakes for her to go ahead and do it. It has to be a guy like Hassan, who's one, probably the biggest lefty political Twitch streamer, and two, not going to fucking break her balls while they're talking to each other. But yeah, the fact that Anna Kasparian has just this need to, do every kind of mental gymnastics possible to validate like all of the criticisms and then still somehow simp for AOC. When she says shit like, oh, she's really gone in another way as far as her media appearances, it's like, what the fuck, dude? She's gone that way with everything. She's gone that way with everything. Her voting, how she talks down to people. Gavin and I were reacting. Did we play it on the air? Yeah, we did. Of her like doing this like horribly like fucking problematic black woman impression while she was like trying to pander to some voters. Like her career has like definitely changed. She is not the DSA loving fucking candidate before. She is just a woke Democrat in all of its meaninglessness. Yeah, why you would run cover for her like this is beyond me.
Yeah, again, it seems like you're agreeing with a lot of the criticisms here, but also defending her at the same. Like, why are you defending her then? These are very valid criticisms to make of someone who was elected by, at least in part, the progressive movement online, because they had to bypass the mainstream establishment media. And the way they were able to do that, progressives like AOC and Bernie Sanders, was by getting attention and gaining momentum from going on and getting covered by independent news shows like TYT. Now, once elected, once in power, AOC has totally turned her back on us. She completely blackballs every independent show that she ever was once propped up by, including TYT, and is now, in Anna's own words, going a different way. It's like, yes, that is the criticism. That's what David Sirota, the point he was making. That's the point we're making. It's okay to criticize AOC. Like, she's not your fucking girlfriend, Anna. Like, it's okay to criticize her. It's your job to criticize her. She's a fucking politician now. She's not your bestie. So I just don't understand what's going on with that. But yeah, let's.
Wow,
go
your
back.
need to date AOC is just getting really creepy, Gavin. Gosh.
But just from personal experience, yeah, she could be doing more. I'm not gonna disagree with that. She kind of has gone in a completely different direction in terms of her media appearances. She's probably a little uncomfortable because it's difficult to decipher in this independent media space who the good faith actors are and who the lunatics are, you know?
And again, sorry, I have to keep pausing it, but like, it's really not that hard to decipher who the good faith. Like, okay, she doesn't have to go on Jimmy Dore. That's fine. No one cares. She doesn't have to go on Jimmy Dore. But is it really that hard to decipher who the other good faith actors are? Like TYT, there's Brianna Joy Gray, there's fucking David Dole, The Majority Report, fucking Mike Figueredo. Like anyone that comes to mind, like what's wrong with all these people? I'm sure they'd all love to, do an interview with AOC and ask her perfectly respectful, kind questions. They're not going to start screaming at her. I just don't understand what's so hard to decipher about, like, who else are you talking about besides Jimmy Dore? Who's a lunatic in this space besides Jimmy Dore? We all know how Anna feels about Jimmy Dore, and it's whatever. They have their own history. That's fine. But who else is a fucking lunatic that AOC needs to be wary of? I just don't get, why are you shitting on the independent media, left media, Anna? Like, why are you taking a fat shit all over the space that you're supposed to be a part of? Like, this space, independent left media, is essential to a progressive movement. Without us, then it's just the fucking mainstream media, and then the progressives are never going to get any attention or support ever. So like, why don't you care about progressive media? Why don't you care about independent left media? We need independent left media if there's ever going to be another progressive movement in this country.
Yep, 100%. Well said. And I think that it all just comes back down to the fact that, all of these people have already talked to her, but like Jimmy Dore has even already talked to her. All these people who she can't decide if they're trustworthy. What are you talking about? She already decided to go on their show. She already has at least somewhat of a rapport with these people. Like we said the other day, Brianna Joy Gray interviewed AOC in front of the largest South by Southwest crowd for political commentary interviews. It was massive. And yet she doesn't know. I don't know if I can trust bad faith. Like, why? You've talked to this woman a bunch. If it was the Hear the Burn podcast, same lady, same topic, same fucking demeanor, you would have been happy to go on that show. So it really is just a new loyalty and allegiance to corporations, and even TYT isn't corporate enough. Fucking bullshit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. And also shout out to you, Zaina, for the comment, because Zaina used to work for Brand New Congress with AOC. She really didn't like going on those shows when I booked them for her in 2018. She always wanted me to book her on mainstream media. I had to talk AOC into going on those shows. That's super interesting insight, Zaina. And like I said, Zaina actually worked with AOC back when she was running for Congress with Brand New Congress. So that's some super interesting insight. Apparently, according to Zaina, AOC never wanted to engage with independent media. She was always, kind of reluctant to engage with left-wing programming and always preferred to go on corporate mainstream media sort of program. So that's a very interesting tidbit. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, very revealing, right? And it makes all the sense in the world based off of how she decided to pivot, right? She was like, oh, this is going to be my launch pad. How do I get in the game, right? And then it's like, once I've, taken off from here, sayonara, guys. I'm big time now. I'm not interested in you. And that's exactly how she's treated, her entire political career.
Absolutely. Also, let's quickly get through some of these super chats. Thank you so much, Hysteric Raider, for the $5. TYT invested so much in Justice Dems that if they say anything critical, it'll make them look bad and make Jimmy look right, which will hurt their ego. That might be part of it. But yeah, it is pretty funny that Cenk, who's literally one of the co-founders of Justice Democrats, now can't even get the Justice Democrats on his own goddamn show.
Yeah, I mean, they also kicked him out of their fucking organization that he founded. So I don't know if that helps him that much anymore.
Very true. And thank you once again, Prelude. Labor Party has a 30 to 40 point lead. It's looking to be a wipeout. Conservatives are looking to lose a second spot to fourth place next general election. Damn. Yeah, we're going to have to get someone on who's more knowledgeable about UK politics to talk about that, because that could potentially be a good thing if Labor's really gonna wipe the floor that much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be based, and hopefully the United States can take a hint from what's going on over there. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But yeah, I'll definitely start following that. I made a note for myself to start reading about that Keir Starmer guy. I don't know, maybe I butchered how you pronounce his name, but the leader of the Labor Party, just to get a little more familiar with him and his politics, and so we can discuss it on air more. But really appreciate hearing from you, Prelude. And then TYT is the greatest thing that happened to Jimmy Dore. They are so cringe and tone deaf and always find a way to make Jimmy look less awful than he is as a result. Yeah, that's fair. They also were the ones that plucked him out of obscurity and gave him an audience for the first time, right? I mean, the dude was a fledgling comedian with one Comedy Central special, which is why I think it's fucking hilarious that the Jimmy Dore crowd is like, he made you guys. You would be nothing without Jimmy Dore. I'm like, LOL, I'll take that on the chin, I guess, but you got to take that on the chin that Jimmy would be nothing without Cenk Uygur then. So wear that one with pride. I totally agree with you, Mike, though. Jimmy's actually like at times compelling. He's really, really, really leaned into the boomer shit. So I find him way less funny now than I have in the past. But it's undeniable that he has a cadence, he has a rhythm, he has a formula that he sticks to, and he knows how to feed his audience red meat. At this point, TYT just seems like a total snooze to me.
Yeah, it's a total echo chamber, and it's just annoying. It's like, why can't you just come out here and criticize AOC, dude? It's not that hard. Like, like, what do you think is going to happen? She's not going to, like I said, she's not your fucking bestie. She's a politician. She's been in Washington for like 4 years now. It's okay to criticize her. You don't always have to put the goddamn kids' gloves on. It's just frustrating. But thank you, Mike. And also, how are the hangovers today? Actually, we're hangover free. Luckily, we both got pretty drunk last night on the live stream. But I always drink a bunch of water before going to bed after a night of imbibing. So luckily it came out unscathed.
Yeah, I think I was slightly less lit than Gavin. I never dipped into the mezcal, so I'm glad to hear that he's doing all right over there. And yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I bounced back. Stuck to the beers, stuck to the hydrating, and it was a fun night. It was our second live stream of the day, and we just let it rip. So good late night commentary on a very, very important Senate election. So shout out to you, Mike, for tuning in.
So I don't know if that's what's scaring her a little bit, but she should definitely talk to more left-wing media outlets, because it's not a good look when those who supported your campaign, helped you get elected, are the very people that you're no longer having any communication with. That's not cool. But I also don't want to make this about like, oh, she won't come on our show. Let me be clear, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna talk about AOC no matter what. Like, I don't.
Why are you cucking yourself to AOC? Like, oh, I don't care if she doesn't engage with our show or any left-wing independent media. Like, I do care. I care if she doesn't go on TYT. I care if she doesn't go on these shows. Why don't you? You're one of the most prominent hosts in the independent left media. Like, this should be of high concern to you. You know how important TYT was and independent left media in general was to the Bernie Sanders movement. You know how important independent left media is to any semblance of a progressive movement. Why are you fucking cucking yourself to AOC now and saying like, oh, I don't care, like, I'm not going to make this all about me? Fine, you don't have to make it all about you, but you should care about the movement as a whole. You should care about this space as a whole, because like I said, one doesn't exist without the other.
Yep.
Don't need her to come on the show for us. She should come on the show for her, right? She should be talking to left-wing voters, because that bodes well for her campaigning, and also what she purports to want to accomplish in Congress. So just want to be clear about that. But with that said, I do think it's important to like watch the entirety of the interview, because I think she made good points, right? So sure, be critical of her refusal to go on left-wing media, but let's start with this first video that talks about, a topic that we discuss here on the show quite often, how Dems need to do a better job talking about corporate greed and how it's contributed to inflation.
I think that we can beef up and be more aggressive in talking about root causes of inflation being corporate greed. This is not, inflation is kind of spoken about as this really vague kind of floaty concept, but that we're all feeling, right? Yeah. Prices of things are going up, but we don't really talk about why. And we need to have a real confrontation about the consolidation of market power and the fact that increasingly the most basic goods that we have, housing, food, etc., are concentrating into oligopolies, and that it is these huge corporations that are price gouging just because they can, just because they want to.
So there's the clip that Anna chose to be representative of how based AOC's appearance actually was. And obviously, that was correct. What AOC said, that is true, every word of it. But I could go find a clip of Chuck Schumer sounding super based. Like, it's not actually that uncommon for normie corporate Democrats to every once in a while sound okay. Like, yeah, Was she correct in that clip? Yes. But like I said, I could literally go find a clip of fucking Chuck Schumer and play it for you guys and say, wasn't this based, guys? He's on fire. He's spitting truth, bro. I don't care about what AOC fucking says. I care about what she does. And if she's not going to engage with the left independent media, then she at least should be actually challenging power in Congress in her role as a legislator. And she hasn't challenged power in fucking years. When was the last time she actually seriously resisted the Democratic Party leadership? I can't fucking remember. Probably since she's, protested outside of Nancy Pelosi's office for the Green New Deal, when she literally just got into Congress. So yeah, save me the bullshit. Okay, you found a 5-second soundbite of AOC saying something correct. That's the bar you want to set?
I know. That's what's crazy about it, right? I was going to say the exact same thing. Who can't I find in the Democratic Party saying something that's fucking reasonable for 3 goddamn seconds, right? What we know about the Democrats is that they love to put up people who will talk about this kind of shit in vague non sequiturs, like, oh yeah, get the college vote out. Sure, tell everybody that things can be different. What we can't have in the Democratic Party is action. Right. So what is she doing out here? She's spinning yarn. OK, she's out here just talking out of her fucking ass about shit that she knows she's supposed to represent to people. Right. Like people think of AOC. They think about her as the one that's taking on the corporations, man. So that's the role she's playing. But she's not doing anything to push for this in Congress. She's not doing anything to make this a tangible reality. There is nothing. We already know this about AOC. There is nothing that will make her now decide to protest in a meaningful way against Democratic Party leadership. If she had wanted to do something like that, there would have been insane protests from her where she would have brought in a bunch of really powerful people who identify and are like, yes, Slay Queen with her. And then they would have said, we're not fucking moving. We are keeping everybody here until you codify Roe at a national level. That would have been the line in the sand. If we were ever going to see a line in the sand from AOC, it would have come in the wake of the Roe SCOTUS thing. It would have said, stack the court, pass this shit. I don't care what the fuck you do, but me and the squad and all of our most powerful allies and every single other motherfucker that we can put on a bus from across the country, okay, is going to be right here waiting it out. And until you move, yeah, we're going to make life real hard for you at the Capitol. That's what you do if you fucking care. That's what you do if you want rubber to hit the road. It's never going to hit the road for AOC. She let what was one of the most maybe critical issues to any kind of progressive Democratic voter, but also the neoliberal establishment, where she could have run cover and excused herself for being so. She was like, no, I won't be contained, like nasty woman, blah, 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 all those code words that New York City liberals like. She could have fucking used that as like a defense for herself in that one area, and then also won over people like me and Gavin, who are ardent leftists, who are like, yes, this is a violation of somebody's civil autonomy. It must be fucking upheld. Instead, she didn't do that. She did a couple of photo ops. We had the argument where it was like, okay, she got quasi arrested, and that was it. There was nothing else. Mom is the word now. Time to go put me back on the cover of Vogue magazine or GQ or wherever the fuck else she was just weeks later, right? Talking about how she feared for her own fucking life. Not like any of these poor women in the South who are completely fucked now. Too poor to go get a fucking abortion out of state. Now they, even in the cases of like fucking rape, incest, your life is in jeopardy. You can't fucking afford it. This is the world we live in now. That's not enough to get you out of your cushy New York City apartment and start actually fucking protesting in the streets. Nothing will, fam. It's over for AOC. She's one of them now. She's an Obama liberal.
Dude, I totally forgot about the arrest incident where she was like protesting and like got like escorted away. That was a hoot. By the way, thank you so much, Boeing 757 pilot. Really appreciate the $20. Great points. Who cares what AOC says? She was elected to act. Talk is cheap and easy. You guys are nailing it. 100%, man. 100%. Again, you can find a 5-second soundbite of Chuck Schumer sounding based. That doesn't give you an excuse to defend him from other valid good faith criticisms. But thank you so much, Bowen. Really appreciate the $20. Really always appreciate your support, man.
Absolutely.
She's right about that. I show you that clip because to basically sum up her appearance on Pod Save as nothing more than, again, nonsense talk about In-N-Out is ridiculous. Again, that was like at the very end of the interview. She talked about the failures of the—
One more comment about it. Why does it look like they are interrogating AOC as she's being held in like customs and immigration? Like these guys have a massively fucking profitable podcast. They're like the heads of the Vulture Media Company, and they apparently have no budget for an interior decorator. At least Gavin and I tried. We're broke as fuck, and we still hung up some art for you people, right? I mean, hey, we went the extra mile. No, these people, they want the environment that they're in to reflect their cold, callous, unethical policy positions, and that's exactly what they're presenting. So I guess hats off to them. But this is just this. I mean, this looks like prison. This looks like
it looks like when you're in like the courthouse, you go like to mediate with the other opposing legal team, and they stick you in one of those rooms. That's what this looks like. That's a great point, Zach. But yeah, also she said, one sec, let me replay this.
As nothing more than basically sum up her appearance on Pod.
Just because they want to.
She's right about that. I show you that clip because to basically sum up her appearance on Pod Save as nothing more than, again, nonsense talk about In-N-Out is ridiculous.
Also, literally no one did that. Literally no one did that. You're strawmanning every good faith criticism of AOC and saying, well, why are you just focusing on the In-N-Out and stop acting like that's all they talked about? No one acted like that's all they talked about. People reacted to that clip because that's the one that they decided to post on social media. No one is under the impression that AOC had a 2-hour-long conversation about fucking In-N-Out with the Pod Save America bros. Literally no one ever said that.
Again, that was like at the very end of the interview. She talked about the failures of the Democratic Party. And she also kind of weighed in on recent polling that shows fears of losing our democracy don't happen to be a priority for most American voters. And she addressed that in the next clip in a way that left me wanting more. So let's watch that and I'll explain why.
You ask most voters what they care about, and inflation tops the list. Abortion access tops the list. And I think, in the New York Times poll, it was like 7% of people said threats of democracy in the way that we think about it, election denial, all that kind of other stuff. There was also like 40% of people would be willing to vote for an election denier. How do you balance the need to make sure people understand the threat that we're facing, with also speaking to people's immediate concerns?
A lot of elections, a lot of times are driven by very short-term issues, thinking, and priorities. And when you see this jockeying over narratives, it's about what we make urgent and how we respond to the urgent issues in our society right now.
Word salad.
Yeah, so fucking profound. Well,
I want the Democratic Party to understand is that their campaigning that mostly focuses on threats to our democracy if Republicans win maybe isn't as effective, because if you're saying like electoralism is what's going to save you, clearly it has not saved the American people, right? I mean, think about how Democrats might campaign on certain things. Like, let's say, passing a voting rights bill, which is incredibly important to do at a time when red states are engaging in voter suppression legislation. When you have states like Arizona grappling with vigilantes showing up at ballot drop-off boxes to intimidate voters. Like, yeah, we need to support, bolster, security around our electoral system. And ensure that people who are eligible to vote can easily vote without intimidation and without fear. But it's also important to understand that when you keep talking about how important our democracy is, maybe that doesn't really resonate with people who have engaged in the electoral system and have noticed a pretty significant decline in their quality of life.
Can we jump in right here? I think that this is actually probably one of the better points that Anna's going to make. So I'm sorry for butchering it by interrupting it, but I think that actually, the thing that people, we say all the time, like a lot of people don't have the luxury of considering things that are outside of their material existence, right? But I think she also just made a really good point right there, where even the people that have participated in democracy have started to smell a bunch of bullshit, right? The more you pay attention to this, the more you're like, I have to jump through all of these hoops to influence things on like such a margin that it never actually meaningfully impacts my life. And then you start to go, oh, wait, that's why we're allowed to vote, right? The old Emma Goldman quote, if voting changed anything, they'd make it illegal. That's how a lot of people who are working class feel. So it's like, I'm supposed to lose money and pay at my job if I make an hourly wage, go to the polling place after I've jumped through all of these hoops, probably losing more money at my job because all those places are only open until like fucking 4:30. And if you work a regular job, good luck fucking getting there. Especially if you live in a city where there's rush hour. So all these different kinds of things that go on that really impact people's perception of why they would vote. So it's like, you tell people our elections are bullshit. They're like, we already fucking know. Could you at least tell me something that you're going to do that will change my life? Like, our election's been bullshit my whole life. Does anybody remember the Al Gore, George Bush presidency? Does anybody fucking remember any of this shit, right? It's our whole life. We've already known that our elections are a fucking joke. So making that the focal point of your entire political messaging and saying these other guys are evil because they don't believe in our elections. It's like, well, fucking our founding fathers didn't really believe in just elections either. So let's just fucking help me put some dinner on the table and stop fucking with me. That's what people are going to react with.
Yeah, like fucking half the presidents in our lifetime haven't even been elected by the popular vote. Like, what fucking democracy? And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not trying to underplay the threat to democracy that Donald Trump represents. He absolutely did try to steal the election. That's not to be taken lightly. But let's not pretend like this is like some fucking golden beacon of democracy either.
Democrats, specifically in Georgia, doing whatever it took to ensure that 2 Democrats won those Senate runoff races following the 2020 presidential election. And then they get told by the Democratic Party that they're not even going to try for voting rights. When voters are told that the federal government, under the leadership of the Democratic Party is going to pass much needed police reform, and then it doesn't happen. So when you talk about the importance of protecting our democracy, I totally agree. But you also have to understand that maybe the public, at least some portion of the public, is looking at our democracy and thinking, I don't know, I mean, what has our democracy done for us? And that's dangerous. Like, that's a dangerous place to be. So I would have liked to see more talk of those failures by the Democratic Party, the fact that they did not deliver on simple things like increasing the federal minimum wage. I think that has more to do with why a lower percentage of Americans put threats to democracy as their top priority when it comes to voting issues. So the other thing, of course, is we have a 2-party system that has been completely taken over by corporate interests. And luckily, AOC did weigh in on that. So let's go to that video.
Are overwhelmingly beholden to special interests. Our entire political system is designed to be very, very acquiescent to money. And the difference is that Republicans, that is part of Republican ideology, is to support corporate America. I think the Democratic Party, we really struggle because we're supposed to be the party of the working class. But in reality, there's a lot in our big tent. It's highly segmented. And I think that there is a lot of objections from that within our party, which prevents us from being as forceful on these issues as we can be.
Again,
So
that doesn't mean fucking
nothing is-
anything. And what she's trying to say, when she's trying to talk about those forces in the party, she herself has been massively, massively manipulated by those exact same forces. Like when she says our political system is designed to be massive, to be acquiescent to money and finance, or however the fuck she phrased it. It was like, oh, glass shattering moment in your little headphones here, because you're like, yeah, dog, that's what happened to you. You want to go on Vogue magazine. You want to sleep in a penthouse apartment. You don't want to live in a shithole, hole in the wall in Queens anymore, right? You're never trying to go back to that. You want to fucking not wear a mask in Florida after you fucking spent the last like 6 months not doing anything but bitching about fucking COVID regulations and not providing any meaningful benefits for your fucking constituents, and not fighting Joe Biden about a $15 minimum wage, all these different kinds of things. And why might that be? Because if you're not directly controlled by the money, which she it's hard to argue she is, because she is a corporate free candidate. She's just indirectly controlled by the money. And it's the same way that shit happens with YouTubers on the internet, right? Let's wear this on our sleeve, right? When you don't have a real boss, right? Nobody from YouTube tells me and Gavin what the fuck to say, right? but we know what we could say to make more money, right? We know what we could say to make a bigger audience happier and feel more generous, right? We could do that. And you start doing that a little bit, and then you can't do it any more and more and more. And then your lifestyle changes, and now you've got payments for things, and now you're feeling like you're spending way more money, but you still feel strapped, like you still feel like you're in that like hashtag grind set, bro, from when you're working to actually survive. But now you're just like working for some like weird goal of like, oh, I have to be as posh and affluent and live the same lifestyle that all these other congressional Congress people do. And you compare that to Nancy Pelosi, who's a little fucking $100 millionaire. Like, I bet you her fucking assets are close to $500 million if you combine her and her husband's, fucking insane amounts of wealth. And so what they try and do is they try and make you feel like that's how you should be living when you're, I mean, it's all fucked up, but this has all happened to her. So it's a little, weird for her to be calling out other people for it.
Yeah. And let's just listen to what AOC said again, because this is truly funny.
Into special interests. Our entire political system is designed to be very, very acquiescent to money. And the difference is that Republicans, that is part of Republican ideology, is to support corporate America. I think the Democratic Party, we really struggle because we're supposed to be the party of the working class. But in reality, there's a lot in our big tent. It's highly segmented. And I think that there is a lot of objections from that within.
What a characterization of the Democratic Party. It's like, oh, we're supposed to be the party of the working people, but because it's such a big tent, we got to contend with all these corporatists and all these fucking enemies of the people. It's just part of being a big tent. It's just like a little intra-party civil war. Should we be the party of the people? Should we be the party of corporate America? Who knows? Let's all, work together and figure it out.
In our party, which prevents us from being as forceful on these issues as we can be.
So nothing is forcing, what she said there is right, but I also want to follow up by saying nothing is forcing the actual progressive wing of this big tent Democratic Party from fighting back against the nefarious corporate controlled wing of the Democratic Party. And I think a lot of the frustration toward AOC is that we haven't seen much of that. So for those who have been critical of AOC, I'm not saying like, don't criticize her. There's never a time you should go. No, you should criticize her when it makes sense. And there's been this acquiescence, I think, with the moderate Democrats, at least the optics are there, that make progressive voters pretty frustrated with her. But the other thing I want to mention, because this is super important, is that any real change that's ever occurred in this country was never accomplished through electoral politics alone. Electoralism and electoral politics, honestly, engaging in it is the bare minimum. The utility is overstated, and I think intentionally overstated to discourage people.
Sounds like she's been listening to the Vanguard, bro. No, but obviously she's right about that. The problem is that she's using that fact to defend AOC. Like, yes, it's true that electoralism isn't the end all and be all, and that a lot of the actual change and progress that's occurred in this country and that will occur in this country comes from outside of the electoral arena, from direct action and stuff like that. But she's using that fact to give AOC a pass and say like, well, criticize AOC. It's okay to criticize AOC. You can do it when it makes sense. But let's be honest, guys. Electoralism, schmeck electoralism. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really matter. These people don't really have an effect anyway. You got to organize outside of the electoralism. You can't just expect AOC to do everything. What are you talking about? Real change isn't accomplished that way. Why are you criticizing her so much?
Yeah, it's quite pretzel brain.
Yep. And thank you, by the way, Hysteric Raider, for the $2. People know our voices don't matter. Money speaks. Yep. That's 100% true, Hysteric Raider. Thanks so much for the donation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And again, it's like Anna's like almost there. She's almost there. And she is making some good points here. So I'm not trying to be too hard on her. But it's just frustrating to watch her get so close, but then still fucking put on the kids' gloves and refuse to just call out AOC for being a sellout. Like, just fucking do it, bro. Why can't you just acknowledge reality? Like, this person's not on your fucking team anymore. This is not your fucking like sister in activism anymore. Like, this is a fucking corporatist sellout who's more concerned with her career than the needs of the people that got her elected and the needs of the movement that got her elected and the longevity and future of the movement that got her elected, which has since basically dissipated in part because she's abandoned it.
From doing more. And what do I mean by doing more? By organizing, by having a strategy in place, an outside pressure campaign in place that incentivizes the progressive wing of the Democratic Party to do what they were elected to do. If there is no accountability, if there is no outside pressure campaign, a well-organized outside pressure campaign, I'm not talking about random podcasters or progressive shows just tweeting their outrage. I'm talking about actual organized labor like we've had in our nation's history, which did bode well for the New Deal era. If we don't have that now, we're not gonna get what we want. Change doesn't just happen by casting a ballot and then going to brunch or going home and hoping for the best. The reason why the Republican Party does what it does, unfortunately, is because they've got this right-wing media ecosystem, of course, that's very supportive of what they're up to. But more importantly, I mean, think about how scared Republican members of Congress are of their base. And it's because they apply the right amount of pressure to get what they want. And I don't see that on the left. So that goes to just the bigger point. There are no saviors in Congress. There's never gonna be a day in which we elect one fire breather and that fire breather is gonna save us. That's not gonna happen. I think that's an incredibly childish way of looking at politics. And also it completely erases some of the successes the left and in particular organized labor has had in this country.
Once again, total straw man. Literally no one is saying that about AOC. No one is saying, why aren't you single-handedly making everything better and bringing about the change that we need? Literally no one has ever said that about AOC. No one is asking that of AOC. All they're asking her to do is to put up a bare fucking minimum amount of resistance against the corporate fucking capture of the party that she acquiesces to constantly. Like just a bare amount of resistance. Just put up a little bit of fight. Please do what you were elected to do. That's all people are asking of her. It's like when you criticize the squad members or Bernie Sanders or someone, and these people turn around and say, well, what do you expect them to single-handedly bring about the revolution? No one expects that. We're not fucking stupid.
Yeah, I would just say that this whole spiel, just really makes it seem like Anna just loves to get played, right? She just loves to play herself. She plays herself like 30 times in this one clip. It's like she starts making a bunch of sense, and then she has to figure out how AOC is playing like 6-dimensional chess to actually just be doing this. And it's like, no, she's not a savior. She just immediately became a cog in the machine, and you're not really supposed to be outraged about that because that's childish. And what she's really doing is she's just going there to do exactly what we sent her to do, even though she hasn't actually done what we sent her to do. It was just that what you sent her to do was what she can't do. You know what I'm saying? So really, it's your fault, dummy. Stop talking about this. And that's and if that doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to anybody because this is a senseless fucking argument. She's basically validating every criticism that people like David Sirota have put up in either strawmanning it as a way of dismissing it or just straight up being like, they're right, but that's mean, or like, oh, they're right, but like AOC is still correct. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Anna. You can't make these criticisms and then still go back and turn around and run cover for her like you have been. It's like, is she putting up a fight in Congress, or is she acting like a Democrat? Is money manipulating her, or is she still one of us and fighting for us? You can make either argument. I will debate the validity of one, but you can't make them both. That's just nonsense.
And I would say that, she's using the kid's glove because she's concerned about access journalism and she wants to have AOC on the show. But AOC's not even going on your show. You are getting no access. So you're doing access journalism without getting the access. Why not just be honest about what's going on here?
I think she still holds out hope that AOC will come on TYT again.
Maybe, man, maybe. But thank you so much, Brian, for the 199. Does AOC still call herself a socialist? Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard AOC self-identify as a socialist in a while. But to be fair, I don't keep up with all of her every word she says or every media appearance that she makes either. So maybe she does. I haven't heard her use that term in a while, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe like I could imagine like within sometime in the last like 6 or 8 months, maybe she did something with like a DSA and like took a photo op or something like that. But I don't imagine her being like, yeah, proud democratic socialist. I believe in democratic socialism. No, she's not going to say that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And also thank you, Nima, for the $5. You're promoting lesser evilism, labor, sabotage Corbyn and expelled him. Keir Starmer is a corporate rat. If Labor wins, it would be a disaster. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm like super pro Labor Party. I was just saying like it would probably be better if they're in control than the Tories, right? Like I don't really know much about the UK though. That is definitely true that they sabotaged Corbyn and expelled him. So yeah, fuck Labor.
I mean, I don't agree with that. Just because the Labour Party sabotaged and expelled Corbyn, like, do you want me to fire off what the fucking Tory party has done? They crashed the entire British economy. The pound is worthless. They had a fucking 2 PM scandals within the fucking period of 6 months. They had to get rid of them. So, I mean, yeah, I understand that Keir Starmer is maybe he's corporate, and but I don't understand how, by your logic, that if Keir Starmer is the corporate rat, that fucking Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss was like somehow going to be a better option.
I don't think they're saying that the Tories are better. I just think they're saying that the Labor is not.
Well, then how is that
ideal.
a disaster if they win? It's like me saying if Joe Biden wins, that's a disaster because I want Donald Trump out of office. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how?
I mean,
like,
Joe Biden is a disaster. He has been a disaster. But the point I'm just trying to seed to Nima is that I have heard that the Labor Party has gone massively corporate, and it's no longer the party of Jeremy Corbyn. It's much more like the kind of neoliberal Democrat Party. So I'm not saying that they're worse than the Tories, but I have heard that they've like, you know, really kind of watered down their populist messaging and have really embraced like corporate Britain.
Yeah, well, I'm perfectly aware of that, but though I think it just comes back down to like I mean, promoting lesser evilism is like essentially politics, right? Like last night we were talking about how if we lived in Pennsylvania, we would still vote for fucking John Fetterman instead of Dr. Oz. Like John Fetterman, we criticized it a litany of times last night, but I wouldn't call it a disaster if John Fetterman wins the election because I'm promoting lesser evilism. I just think that framework is like it's just very pessimistic, and it's like, well, then what, Nima? Like, yes, Labor did sabotage that, but it's like, do you know what? Like, what are we gonna get without that? Like, what's your strategy if not to vote out the people that literally crippled the British economy? What is your like? Is it better to just accelerate and let the Tories run amok? Like, I don't understand.
No, I mean, I don't think he's saying to let the Tories run them. I don't know what they're saying, to be honest. Let us know, Nima, if you're saying you think the Tories should remain in control. I just think he's saying they're both bad, which I think is fair to say. Just like how we acknowledge that the Democrats are the lesser evil. Like, that's fair to acknowledge. You would agree with that, right? The Democrats are the lesser evil.
That was the point that I just made. I just said that the Democrats were the lesser evil compared to Trump. No, I think that's not how I interpret that. So maybe I interpreted it wrong. But
you think he's saying that the Tories are based or something?
I think he's articulating accelerationism. And I don't agree with accelerationism. Like, oh, don't vote for Joe Biden because if we get a worse president, then it'll actually be better. Like, do you remember all those arguments that came about during the 2020 election? That was what I kind of read from.
Well, I didn't vote for Joe Biden. And also the UK does have a multi-party democracy, and you can vote for Green Party candidates and other third-party candidates that aren't either Tory or Labour. So if I was in the UK, I probably would do that, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Brian, also for the $4.99. TYT invested a lot in AOC, so they will stand by her until the very end. Apparently, even though she refuses to, grant them any access. Again, it seems like they're doing access journalism without the access, which is pretty amusing.
Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing, is what it is at this point, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Tool Druid, for the $9.99. It's two right-wing parties in America. One is openly terrible and pro-corporate, while the other cleverly tries to conceal their awfulness and is mildly better on social issues. Exactly. I think that's fair to say. And like I said, I mean, I understand why people make the choice to vote Democrat. And like I said, I probably would vote for John Fetterman. But I also don't think it's like, it should be taboo to identify a lesser evil as a lesser evil when clearly a pro-police, pro-Israel, pro-pharma party is evil. Like, I don't think we have to, put on the kids' gloves when we talk about fucking the Democratic Party or the Labor Party or whatever.
No, that's 100% true. But I think that if you look at just how fucking devastating the Tory party has been to the UK, and to be fair, I don't fucking live there, right? I don't know. But I've watched the fucking economy like crash when I read The Guardian every single morning. So maybe I just misinterpreted the chat from earlier, but I do also agree with the fact that we have a fucking two right-wing parties in America. I'm not denying that at all, and I don't care if people like voted for a Green Party candidate. I guess that wasn't something that I was like immediately thinking of in the forefront of my mind. But in the same way that you chose not to vote for Joe Biden, I think you also would have agreed that you were relieved when he won.
I was relieved when Donald Trump lost. I'll put it that way. But thank you so much, Children. I really appreciate that. And this video is almost done.
Country in the past. So I'm just keeping that real. And again, you want to criticize AOC for not talking to left-wing media enough, fine. But let's be realistic about the utility of electoral politics. And let's also be realistic about the lack of, organized pressure on the outside to basically hold progressives accountable when they don't do what we want. When you have an AOC who's willing to abstain on a vote that gives the right-wing Israeli government an additional $1 billion in military aid. She felt the pressure from her fellow moderate Democrats, but clearly she didn't feel the pressure from us. And that's saying something.
Yeah, because you're fucking using kids' gloves to criticize her and refusing to actually call her out for the fucking grave mistakes she's making, for cuddling up to the neoliberal corporatists, for refusing to resist the leadership of her own party when it matters. You're the problem. Like you're saying, you're fucking chastising the progressive movement for not pressuring her enough. Meanwhile, you're running defense for her and refusing to criticize her. This whole segment was so contradictory and hypocritical that I really truly don't know what to make of it. It's like she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth. On one hand, she's defending AOC, and then on the other hand, she's affirming every criticism that's been made of AOC. On one hand, she's saying, let's not criticize her because that's a stupid reason to criticize her. On the other hand, saying we need to criticize her more because she doesn't respect us. Which is it, bro? Like, just fucking have a position and defend that position. Either call her out or defend her.
Yeah, pretty agonizing.
Yeah, but got a couple more super chats to address. Thank you so much, Christina, for the $9.99. Who the F even watches TYT anymore? They are beyond irrelevant and they don't realize it. Well, a decent amount of people still watch TYT. Let's check out the channel. They get more views than us, that's for sure. This video got 100,000 views. But yeah, they're kind of eating shit lately, not gonna lie. Like I said, obviously way more views than us, but still on the lower end of views, considering the fact they have 5 million subscribers. Most of their videos get about 30 to 40,000 views, with the odd exception kind of cracking 100. But we still watch them so that we can bring you guys analysis and clips like this to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to be thinking about how they have to support an entire network. They've got a lot of staff to support. So, definitely not the kind of numbers that I know Cenk is hoping for when he looks at their analytics. But yeah, obviously still massively influential compared to a small show like the Vanguard. But anyway, appreciate you, Christina, for the generous donation. And even with all they've done, labor is still far to the left of the Dems. It might be lip service at times. They describe themselves as socialists. Yeah, that was a big part of what I'm trying to say. It's like guys, I think that comparing the labor to the Democratic Party is still a little bit of a stretch, but I also understand that they were horrible to Jeremy Corbyn. I wasn't trying to downplay that. They pretended he was an anti-Semite when he very obviously wasn't. This is a man that had dedicated his whole life to justice. And of course, the Labor Party was better when it was led by Jeremy Corbyn. But it's also true that the Tory PMs of late have just been fucking berserker, bonkers, crazy bad, especially on the economy. Basically, give the rich all the tax breaks and let the windfall as it may on the backs of working class Brits. So that's also true.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I would like to have someone on who's an expert in UK politics to talk a little bit about this and how much the Labour Party is like the Democratic Party. Obviously, what they did to Corbyn left a terrible taste in my mouth. But yeah, I'm not denying that they're better than the fucking Tories. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not denying that. And thank you a lot for the insight. Really appreciate the $5. And I think we got another one from Christina. Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you both for keeping it real in this crazy world of BS. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in, Christina. Glad that you're enjoying our commentary and really appreciate that donation. Again, we're just telling it like we see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Christina. Really appreciate seeing you. In the chat, looks like we did get a few more surprise super chats real quickly. Remember, the UK has a multi-party system. Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. But I would say that tactically it would be smart for the third party to, leverage with the Labor Party and message on how fucking terrible the Tories are, and then gain some concessions from as you guys have said, more corporate Labor Party. That's how parliamentary systems operate. They actually have much more. The Green Party, or whatever the third leftist party that you want to take example of, would actually have a lot more power and leverage to be wielded in this multi-party system. And I think that by messaging like, hey, we are going to oust the Tories, and here are some of the concessions that we've gotten from Labor to like put our things forward. Like, again, I'm not an expert on how things are going over there. All I've read is lots and lots and lots about how fucking terrible the Tories are recently. So anyway, that could just be media manipulation. I am across the pond, so who knows? Shout out to you, Andrew.
Yeah, really appreciate that, Andrew. Always appreciate hearing from you. And thank you so much, Christina, once again for the $4.99. Thank you for watching TYT so no one else has to. We do our duty, indeed. Your content is way more important than TYT. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Christina. That's so nice of you to say. It's definitely not as widely viewed as TYT's work, but we definitely try to make a difference where we can and change people's minds where we can. And also, with all my criticisms of TYT, it's not like I wouldn't be down to say this to Anna's face. Like, if she wanted to come on the show, she never will. But if she ever wanted to come on the show and have this conversation with us, I'd be more than happy to have this conversation with her. I know we, criticize them all the time, but we're always happy to have a dialogue with people and explain our disagreements and kind of try to hash out the beef. So to any TYT fans that may be listening out there, we're more than willing to engage with that side of the spectrum as well. But thank you so much, Christina. We really appreciate your super chat and so glad you enjoy our commentary.
Yep, it's like that old Bobby Flay intro. To all you TYT watchers out there, keep doing what you do, but ask yourself this: are you ready for a showdown? No, shout out to you, Christina, and shout out to you, Alicia Kurtz. I would say that even the conservatives are left of Dems in many cases, which is sad. Rishi reinstated their fracking ban, moving to the UK November 2nd. Well, shout out to you. Best of luck with your travels. November 2nd is coming up. I think that's like next Wednesday, a week from today. So wild. And yeah, I don't know a ton about Rishi. I know that I was reading an article about how a lot of the Tories aren't going to vote for his policies, even though they chose him to be the PM. I don't know. It's complicated. And again, I barely can keep up with the weeds in America. So, if I've said anything super foolish, I'm going to blame it on the fact that I'm a foreigner.
Yeah, thank you so much for the super chat, and that is true, because that's what our comrade was saying at the beginning of the chat from the UK. They were saying that they're a conservative in the UK, but they feel like they're to the left of the Democrats in America. So that shows you how completely out of whack our political spectrum is, and the Overton window is here in America, even compared to the UK. So thank you so much for pointing that out. Really appreciate the $5. And also thank you, Dan Campbell. Always appreciate seeing you in the chat, Dan. Thank you so much for the generous $20. Popular song back in the day, My Sirota. Corbyn was more solid than Sanders, even when he appeared independent. Not familiar with that song, but yeah, that is true. I would say that Corbyn was definitely just as good, if not even more based than Bernie. I think Corbyn's foreign policy was even more based than Bernie, because he was big on like freeing Palestine and stuff, which Bernie
that's why he got smeared as an anti.
Right, exactly. And Bernie was always a little bit timid and reluctant to call out Israel, where Corbyn was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna speak the truth. So yeah, that's true, Dan.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you're making a joke, Dan, but I think the song you're referencing is actually My Sharona, and I know you know that song, Gavin. My Sharona. So I think, oh God, what the fuck is that? I think it's a weird name. It's like, I think it's like the Knack, or it's like a 70s band. Like, I don't fucking know. But anyway. Yeah, anyway, I think that's what he's talking about. That's funny. My Sirota, LOL, Dan Campbell, really appreciate the donation. And yeah, Bernie Sanders, he's been super whack recently. He even fucking sided with Pramila Jayapal in fucking throwing the squad under the bus. I tweeted about it. I was like, what the actual fuck, Bernie? This is ridiculous. And he hasn't, I mean, yeah, he's honestly, Bernie's really pissing me off right now. He's in the corner of shame right now. I'm not thinking about the guy. And Jeremy Corbyn is based, and he will go down in history as based. And Bernie's gonna just fucking not be part of my fucking political understanding for the next couple of weeks while I recover. Are you muted?
Oops, sorry, I was muted. I was just saying, definitely have a soft spot in my heart for Bernie Sanders, always will. But yeah, there's no doubt that his recent contributions to the discourse have been fairly underwhelming, fairly disappointing. But thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate the $20. Seriously, it means so much. Really, really appreciate the support. And we do have one more clip that we really quickly wanted to react to. This one's not very long, but I did see this on Twitter, and we were talking about Cenk and Anna's kind of tough on crime, Fox News-esque framing on the issues of crime recently. And here's another piece of evidence to add to the file. Cenk once again strawman in good faith criticisms of TYT's right-wing talking points on the issue of crime. And Adam Johnson here says, smarmy, self-indulgent line here. Let's take a listen to what Cenk had to say before we break this down.
It looks like Republicans are going to take the House. So now, second thing that's important, of course, is the policies and why it happened, right? So inflation is a giant part of it. I'm going to get to that in a second. But crime, here at TYT, we warned folks this is going to be a big issue. And as always, they shot the messenger. So since we're the messenger, we get shot on a regular basis and from every quarter, right? So we've been calling out the right wing for 20 years straight. They've been shooting at us for 20 years straight. Then we call out establishment Democrats and they say, oh no, Hillary Clinton's got this. No, it's you messengers that are the problem. The American people love the establishment. Oops, we were right, they were wrong. They learned nothing from it. We said, don't do the Iraq war, we were right, they were wrong. I can give you dozens of examples. They never learned anything from it. What do? Shoot the messenger. And now the left wing is doing it. So the extreme left says, no, in the midst of an increase in crime, we should pretend that there isn't an increase in crime. And we should talk about absurd things like abolishing prisons. Okay, we told you that's not gonna play well. We were 100% right. And then they're like, no, it's okay. This problem will be solved if we just shoot the messenger. Okay, that's just not how it works. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, Cenk is addicted to his like perpetual victimhood over here. I just don't understand it. He's not a leftist, right? I've talked about this a lot. His fundamental like Cenk is a capitalist and he saw a lane and he's firmly in this lane now because as he likes to point out, he's been doing this for 20 years, right? But if you look at him, like, I don't know, if you listen to the man talk, right? And you look at his record, right? I don't mean like his like fucking extra, I mean the like history of the things that he's put out here. And you look at how his impulse reaction, you can tell so much about somebody's politics by what is your impulse reaction to an issue? Do I need to coach you to the like empathetic, ethical fucking position here? Or do you just kind of get it? Do you just understand a little bit? So when Gavin and I are talking to somebody like our good friend Olayemi, right? Not only is she infinitely more familiar with the ins and outs of the legal system than Cenk, but she's an actual authentic leftist. That's just where her heart goes. That's where her brain goes, right? And that's, I like to think that's where our heart and brains go too, Gavin. And so when we talk to her about crime increases, we know what would the messaging really be? What would actually help people? And then you can show all of the research in the world that it's about resource scarcity and the improper distribution of wealth and the concentration of wealth and resources in some areas and the abject poverty in others. And we can tell that by hook or by crook, this contributes not to all of our crime, but by fucking massive truckloads, we could eliminate it by solving something like this. And so what the neoliberal establishment has done to crush the left and to crush our authentic actual goals, and they have been cheerleaded by the likes of Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks Network with their framing on this, is it's like, okay, we'll let a couple of you run on just like not having the cops pick people up, but we're never going to budge on any kind of economic recovery package or any kind of mental health package that would meaningfully change the lived experience that these people are having, which is the obvious other step that has to come with, you know, rolling back the police and then providing resources, right? And instead, it just makes it look like defunding the police blew up in our entire face. This is like the shit that Jacobin, actually, back in the day when I was reading Jacobin a lot, they did a great piece on how if Bernie Sanders had become president, big business would have recoiled in a way as to make the markets crash. They would have done it so that they could make it seem like Bernie Sanders' socialist policies were crashing the economy. Meanwhile, it would have been all of big business doing it together to make it seem like, oh, if we have socialism, this will happen, but it would just be them throwing a fit. That's essentially what the Democrats have done, and they've done it with this messenger right here. He is playing the part. He is doing the fucking song of the Democrats right here, you know, and he's setting the left up for failure, just like they set us up. He's just walking into the trap, essentially. So for a guy that considers himself to be like so fucking galaxy brained and always seeing all of the angles, he doesn't see it for shit. And that's because he wants more people to be put in jail. He wants to stop seeing poor people. That's the only thing that I think could make Cenk an authentic leftist. He just doesn't, same with Anna. They just don't want to see it. They're just like, yeah, give these people shit so they get out of my fucking sight. That's how they treat poor people when it's like an actual practical matter, where they feel like it's them versus the poors.
Yeah, and he's literally just doing the MSNBC talking point of blaming all of the failures of the Democratic Party on left-wing activists. Like, it's not the fucking fault of the abolitionist movement or the defund movement that the Democratic Party is about to lose the fucking House and the Senate. It's not the fault of the fucking police abolitionists, bro. It's the fault of the fucking neoliberal corporate Democrats who have failed to fucking materially improve the conditions of Americans' lives. That's the sad thing about this country, is that both parties are so bad that every time one of them takes power, they completely and utterly fail to improve anyone's life or deliver on any of the promises that they made in the election. And therefore, the people then vote in the midterms to swing the pendulum back in the other direction, just in the desperate hope that their lives will improve, that inflation will improve, that the economy will improve. It has nothing to do with fucking defund the police. That's what Claire McCaskill says on MSNBC, because she's a bird-brained fucking moron that doesn't know anything about the working class or the reality of actual people in this country. You think normal people are out here fucking concerned about some small minority contingent of left-wing activists who are talking about defunding the police? No, they're concerned about the fucking price of groceries and the price of gasoline and the economy, dude. Why are you blaming left-wing activists for the failures of corporate fucking politicians? It's so fucking maddening. And also at the beginning, he says, like, we told you guys that crime was going to be an issue. Like, you know, we're always right about everything. And we were the first ones to say crime's going to be a big issue in the fucking midterms. Bro, everyone knew that. Everyone knew that crime was going to be a big issue. You know why we knew that? Because every single election cycle of my entire goddamn life, the Republicans have made crime a fucking issue. You're the one fucking falling into their framing. You're the one like fucking validating this fake boogeyman that they built up. Like, you're the one that's fucking falling directly into their framing. They always do this. Every single election, my entire life, they've made crime an issue. And instead of fucking pushing back on their bullshit talking points, you're validating them.
Yeah, I mean, par for the course for the Young Turks, right? We've made I don't know how many videos at this point talking about how this is their recipe, this is their formula, right? And really, it's the just progressive enough, just a twinge of progressivism is really their like real brand at this point. It's like basically MSNBC. Like, we joke about how we're the MSNBC guard because some deranged lunatics sometimes call us that when we fucking say something rational. But really, I mean, the MSNBC guard is over there at the Young Turks network. But yeah, it looks like we did get a few more super chats.
Yeah, one I quickly wanted to address from Brian. Thanks so much, Brian. Cenk was just complaining about anarchy in LA. I actually pulled up this tweet before we went live because I wanted to share this with you, Zach. This is so funny. This literally sounds like some shit you'd hear from a fucking Fox News Republican. LA is a mess. There's trash all over the roads. Cops don't respond to calls. It's close to anarchy here. This sounds like, you know, like one of those conservatives that like visits a big city for the first time and they're like shitting their pants in fear because it's anarchy, bro.
Yeah, this is fucking crazy because, again, it just validates exactly what I said earlier about Cenk and his entire politics. It's just that it's total NIMBYism. It is NIMBYism described as progressivism. He just doesn't want to see any of this shit. He just wants to live like, you know how we talk about how like there's a lot of good things to talk about in like Finland or Sweden or whatever, when, you know, they actually do have robust, you know, social services and whatnot. But they also just have like racism and like fucking, you know, all kinds of like weird, like things that go on there where, you know, they don't want to look at trash and they don't want to see any foreigners and they don't want to like, you know, that also is a part of the like, you know, European socialist vision. It's very like homogenous. And I just think that is as close as Cenk can get to like really wrapping his mind about fucking progressive politics. He just wants a homogenous, nice society where he doesn't have to see anything that he doesn't like or that he views as dirty or problematic or whatever. And then just indulging in every single right-wing talking point about this is how liberal cities turn into failures. And is Garcetti in Mumbai or is he in Los Angeles? Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? Like, all right. Like, no, this is not the deeply impoverished subcontinent of India. It is Los Angeles in the first world, and it is the neoliberal dog shit policies that you're asking us to double down on that got us here.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, Like, to be fair, like, I also want to live in a clean and safe community. Everyone wants to live in a clean and safe community. No one should be forced to live in a filthy and dangerous environment. But you don't have to address those issues by fucking buying into the right-wing framing and by espousing Fox News fucking talking points and shitting all over the activists that are desperately trying to combat the prison industrial complex. Like, they're not the fucking problem, bro. The people out here that are desperately trying to fight back against police brutality and the prison industrial complex, which, by the way, is actual modern day slavery. Those people are not the ones responsible for LA being a mess, bro. You're so far up your own fucking ass. And thank you once again, Brian, for the $4.99. Cenk has never abandoned his Republican belief in a more punitive criminal justice system. He believes expanding the prison industrial complex. Apparently, Brian, apparently.
Yeah, shout out to you, Brian. Really appreciate that. And obviously, he's always believed in expanding the prison industrial complex. He's literally talked about how he thinks that the fucking defunding the police movement is a horrible idea. He actually thinks in the most incarcerated country in the world, the solution is more incarceration. In a country that had the widest, largest fucking protest movement coast to coast, all 50 states demonstrated and participated in a defund the police movement and a movement designed specifically to defund the police and to demilitarize the police and to bring justice to the lives taken by the gang control forces known as the police department. And Cenk's out here totally downplaying and admonishing the popularity of that. And he's down here validating every single right-wing framework bullshit. And he does it all the time, and that's his new lane. And it's because he actually believes it. And that's what's disgusting about it, is you can't even say that he's just doing it for clicks. This is his deeply held conviction, and that's why he won't let it go. And that's why he's so butthurt that people are criticizing him about it on the internet. And then shout out to you, Nima, for the response over here. Labor was just as bad as Tories. The 2008 economic crisis started under Labor, and Blair started the illegal war in Iraq, which killed a million people. Well, this is actually interesting, Nima. I'm actually now in a unique position as a guy from America to fill you in on some gaps here. The United States actually caused the 2008 economic crash that happened in the UK. And that's because all of your banks are fucking tied up with our banks. So when the United States cripples the economy, so too does your fucking economy tank. And I would also point to the fact that while it was definitely Blair should, Tony Blair, or whatever the fuck that guy's name was, should never have gotten to Iraq. Again, I say this was the fault of the Americans, because unfortunately, I don't know how to tell you guys. I'm gonna break the news slowly. Ever since World War II, the UK has just been America's little bitch. They've done everything that we fucking told them to, or we'll just be mean to them. We'll fucking we'll make their lives harder. Again, I already mentioned we can crash any economy in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, and that's what we would have done. The United States under George Bush would have made it fucking hell for Tony Blair. So this is not an excuse for Tony Blair. Tony Blair should have stood his ground. Right. But to act like this was just the Labor fucking nefariously coming up with the 2008 economic crash, no, that should happen across the pond. And I will not defend how they responded to it, but just to provide some clarity, Labor did not start the fucking illegal war in Iraq. That was 100% started by the Bush administration over in America, and due to our treaties and all kinds of shit. Like, I guess you could argue that they could have done what the French did, right? They could have done what the French did, and the French said, we're not fucking following you down this rabbit hole in Iraq, to quote Woody Allen. Unfortunately, it is what it is. They didn't do that, so I'm not here. I hate being put in the position to simp for Labor. I'm not simping for Labor. They've made a lot of mistakes. They've done a lot of bad shit. But to say they're just as bad as Tories, no, sir, that is just not true. That is a far cry from the truth, and I will comfortably make that claim from U.S. soil.
Vote blue, no matter who. Zach out here defending war criminals. Wow, can't believe it. Anyway, thank you so much, Nima. Really appreciate that. And also thank you so much, Ivy. Really appreciate the $2. Happy to catch you live after Drunk Guard let loose. Thanks so much for tuning in, Ivy. Glad you're enjoying the show, and hopefully you enjoyed the Drunk Guard last night, the late night guard. It was definitely a really, really good time. We both got pretty shit-faced and had a lot of fun breaking down that Fetterman-Oz debate and hanging out with our community. So thank you so much, Ivy.
Yeah, how thrilled were you, Gavin? I was all right. I only had a couple of beers. I was not shit-faced, but I still felt in my fucking spirits. But
I wasn't like, I guess shit-faced is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I hadn't actually drank in like 2 or 3 weeks since then. So those 3 beers, they hit me pretty hard, bro. I was pretty drunk, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, bro. And shout out to you, Ivy. By E. I'm glad you enjoy both the day guard and the late night guard. As we try and keep a good mix. I think we're gonna start doing more late night shit. We say that all the time, then we don't. But every time we do a late night show, I feel like people get down with the the late guard. Gavin and I ramble a little bit more. Our fucking average decibel level goes up. But it's a good time. So shout out to you, Ivy. And damn, they keep on coming, Brian Frederick. Shout out to you, man. Cenk loves questioning who is a fake leftist while spewing vile right-wing talking points on crime. Yeah, dude, that guy is the obvious fake leftist, okay? Union buster, fucking $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg, all this kind of stuff we've pointed out a million times, but then also just hammering home like NIMBY neoliberal talking points on things like trash and crime. Okay, I get it, guys. That's where your head is at. That's where your head is at right now. Let's talk about resources, and I guarantee you that starts to alleviate some of the crime. We're having real economic contractions right now. No wonder we're seeing more crime. Okay, it's because people are fucking desperate. Desperation breeds crime. Crimes of desperation is the literal term because of that.
Absolutely. He's out here blaming the extreme left for the failures of the fucking Democratic Party. Like, bro, how are you going to blame the far left for the failures of the corporate Democrats? They're not the same thing at all. They're fucking diametrically opposed, fucking definitionally opposed to one another. How is it our fault that the fucking shit-lib neoliberal fucking failures of the Democratic Party are failing to retain their majorities in the House and Senate? Let me tell you, it's not our fucking fault. But thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate the $4.99. And thank you so much for the contributions in general today. We always love hearing from you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you, Brian. And I think that just about wraps our show for the day. We had a decent show. About 90 minutes, came in here, got in, got out, dunked on TYT, and kept the lights on in this joint. So shout out to everybody that tuned in today. Hit that like and subscribe button, and an extra big shout out to those comrades, Vanguardians, super Vanguardians, that keep the show afloat, keep us coming at you on basically a damn near daily basis. I know I was gone in Boston for a little bit, so we were off the mic, but we've made it up for you. We did Monday, stream with Kyle, 2 shows yesterday, a show today, probably a show tomorrow. So you guys hit that notification bell. You make the wheels on our van go round and round. And shout out to all of the super chatters. That was based today too.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone that tuned in today. Thank you all so much for hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And a huge shout out, as always, to our Patreon community. The link is in the description if you guys enjoy our content, if you enjoy our perspective here at the Vanguard. We really would appreciate the support if you want to hit up that link on Patreon. We wouldn't be able to do the show without the support from our patron community, so we really, really appreciate it. That's why we like to give you all a big shout out at the beginning and end of every single live stream. So again, a sincere thank you to our patrons for their support, for keeping this show afloat. And the link is in the description. As always, patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Hit it up, hit it up, hit it up. And if you're not able to, obviously totally understandable. With the economy how it is these days, can't blame you. But all we ask is that you hit that like button on the way out and perhaps subscribe to the channel so you can catch our next live stream. But yeah, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Had a great chat today. Really enjoyed hearing from some of our good friends of the show, members of the Vanguard community. Thank you, Ware Pilgrim. Always appreciate your positivity. Good to hear from you too, Zaina. Thanks for the insight on AOC. And yeah, just appreciate all of you for being part of this community.
Yeah, peace out, everybody. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll probably see you back tomorrow.
Yeah, peace, guys.